Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Monday, July 1, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. We'll be having a time for change call this week on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, left at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We're all on a discovery by choice and moving forward inside. And every day, it's wise to practice letting go and surrendering. Every day, as often as you can. Reason is that we have learned that repetitiveness is the only thing that's going to break through the ego mind's grip on every one of us. If you just do it once in a while, it's going to be like throwing water at a steel wall and hoping that it's going to penetrate the steel. It's repetitiveness, and that repetitiveness is programming. So in reality, what we're doing is we're reprogramming our existence in these bodies. So what's affected? Well, the ego mind's affected because you're reprogramming. And coming to these meditations, you've learned the ego mind has been in control of just about all of us on this planet for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We also know that in order to master the ego mind, which we also know is an illusion, is to step away from it, leave it alone. And the only way that's been found to be able to do that is through meditation. Simple meditation, like we do on these calls. You get into a comfortable position, you relax into the body, you become as still as a statue, and you focus on the breath rising and falling. That's it. We know those steps, but we also know that it's like repetitiveness, constantly reprogramming, because you remember that we have been so embedded for so very long in many lifetimes this way, the way that we are. Ego mind controlled, mostly living in the material physical. Because of the ego mind, we are wanting, having. And always searching. And then we learn that the ego mind's never satisfied, and this is why we do that. So it's self-evident that the ego mind is in charge. That's all good because we discover it, we figure that, okay, I understand that. Now what do we do about it? These meditations, repetitiveness. Repeating things, like in the morning, you say, I release and surrender everything. I surrender my life. I surrender all my belongings. I surrender everything. I surrender my name. I surrender everything. See, a lot of people are fearful of that because they believe, what? That they're going to lose it all. They're going to lose their lives. They're going to lose everything. So they take it literally. So that fear, again, ego mind motivated, seeps in, and we withdraw from doing that. Surrendering means that you're letting go. You're not gripping onto anything. You do not have expectations, I should say attachments, on anything. So in other words, you have something, you enjoy it, but you also know that it's not forever. So you enjoy it while you have it. That's it, period. Now, you don't get forlorn if whatever it is gone, okay, taken from you in some way. You go, okay, I enjoyed it. I had it long enough, so I enjoyed it long enough, and that's great. You see the difference in the frequency? And especially when you do that with the heart-mind. But this is what we're doing. This is a repetitiveness on an ongoing basis to reprogram ourselves to move out of the ego mind into the heart mind and master the ego mind. Which means that we no longer have this fear, worry, stress, and anxiety. It's gone. It's not there. We know that because every time we go into the now, it disappears. It's a cool cycle. It's a cool process. So then you begin to understand that. It's okay, fine. So I'm going to practice repetitiveness all the time. I surrender my life. I surrender everything. I surrender all that there is in this life. And you let it go and you feel light. You know, it's interesting. When you lose everything, material, physical, okay, and you're sitting there and you have nothing. You don't even have a penny in your pocket. Something happens. You see, here's the interesting part, because you don't have any stuff, right? And you don't feel heavy. You feel light. You have no responsibility as far as rent, overhead, paying bills, and any of that stuff. But see, most of us are when that happens, not all of us, but some of us, when that happens, most people freak out. They go into a downward spiral spin. They just freak out and panic. But you have the other choice by just floating with it, knowing that the universe is right there and it's got your back. And the times that I lost everything, first one, yeah, I panicked. Yeah, I was like freaking out. Second one, now, I learned to not expend that energy in that direction. Choice with any of us, we choose that. And it's daunting because you're going, holy crap. But you realize that in that moment, and when you're in that situation, you realize that you can focus and redirect your energies away from being high and dry and focusing on what it is you want. Now, that's really tough for a lot of people because most of them will embrace the panic. But you build a confidence and you begin to embrace your confidence, trust, and faith in yourself and the universe, and you know you've got it. And the universe has you. You know that you're going to orchestrate through the universe phenomenal growth. And you could, it's funny, you lose everything. You go, I spent time like this and this and that. But it kind of just vanishes because you can replace anything you lost and even with better stuff. It's really wild. So that's when you don't have attachment. See, you learn that even though that was a rough time for me, the few times, I learned that you can change it in a blink of the eye. And you also learn to value and to be in deep gratitude all the time for everything. I am not kidding you, for everything. Doesn't matter. Most of us, what we'll do is that we will focus on the fact that you lost something, right? You lost it. You really were attached to it. And so you feel down that you lost it. And you begin to realize is that everything, see, okay, so if I attach myself to something, I'm going to suffer every single time. And when you know that, you don't attach yourself. Why would you attach yourself and go into that goop? You wouldn't. You say, I'm not going to attach myself. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to interact and enjoy whatever it may be. Things, emotions, whatever it may be. Now, was I really heavily into focusing on temporariness? No, wasn't. Didn't really dawn on me, and this was years and years ago. And then I said, well, wait a minute. I started realizing that when you lose everything, I mean all across the board, almost like overnight, it dawns on you. Yeah, someone could say, Harry, it's all temporary. Well, that's fine, Dandy. Harry goes, yeah, probably. But until when you experience it, it reinforces that understanding, appreciation, gratitude, that when you have or you're interacting with things, you cherish every single moment you interact with them. And you never stop. It's not like, okay, I filled that up. I don't need to do that anymore. We've got to remind ourselves all the time. Because we have all these influences. All of us do. We're not exempt from them. But there's different influences. We're all, we attract different stuff. The emotionalities and everything, depending on the type of character, personality, and mood that we are. And so your response to something might be a lot different than Mary Beth over here. She views it totally different. Some people just kick back and go, that's no big deal. I'll replace everything. I'll get it back. It'll be better than before. And they do. They end up doing that. It's like people right now on the planet worrying about, right, in this country alone, worrying about, hey, am I going to be able to have a roof over my head? And we take this stuff for granted. It's sneaky because if you always have a roof over your head, you don't really ever think about not having a roof over your head, do you? Until things get a little crimped. You know what I mean? Something happens or emergency financial cost and kind of cleans you out, right? You're going, wow. And you worry, and you stress, and you fear. Then you start worrying about, you see how this goes? Then it comes in, you go, you say to yourself how you're going to pay for your rent. How are you going to keep the power on? I remember one time I was sitting in my car in a carport at the apartment I was renting, the complex. I remember sitting in my car waiting for the power guy to turn my power back on. Okay. And as I sat there waiting, I realized how quickly and how easily we take things for granted and then we don't have them. So people say, well, why weren't you in the apartment? Because it was so hot in there, it was putrid, Upper Midwest, humidity, you guys know what I mean, humidity and heat. It was like in the 90s. And in a two-story town, you got a basement, and you got this first floor, second floor. It was unbearable, not a breath of air. So I sit in my car. I had the air conditioning running. And I was always going to say, oh, it's burning gas. You see how all this works? So I watched this guy. He acted like he was covering up things, like Mr. Cloak and Dagger, just to take the unit out, turn it around, and plug it back in. So he gets it on. I cannot tell you how in deep gratitude I was to go in there and be able to have air conditioning running. I felt like I was in seventh heaven. Now, you take that for granted for year after year after year after year, then all of a sudden it's gone. Wild stuff when you're actually experiencing it firsthand. And then, of course, and then I knew there was I was on a down. I was going down the hill. So I ended up getting evicted. But it was interesting because I was such good friends with the property manager that she just allowed me to, take my stuff out when I needed to, and I basically just got rid of everything, gave it away, instead of things that I thought I was attached to, and then all of a sudden that was just, I figured out, well, this chapter's over. And then I went, and I went from that to a spider-infested basement. A dirty cement floor and one little window. Cobwebs everywhere. But you know what I said to myself? When I finally was able to get a cot down there, I was looking at the ceiling and I said, I can't believe I got a roof over my head. I'm not kidding you. That's what I thought about. I didn't think about anything else. I thought about having a roof over me. I heard the rain. I heard the thunderstorms. And I was dry. And I was looking at the rafters in that basement. And so gratitude is so empowering because no matter what position you're in, you're grateful. Right? You're grateful. And you learn not to attach yourself to things. You enjoy them. You get a lot of pleasure in everything, but you don't attach yourself to them. Because once we do, we suffer. We worry, we stress, we fear. And it's like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do it. You do it. You do it. It's really interesting. You say you're not going to do it. I'm not going to do that. And the funny thing is what do? You do. Oh, I'm not going to worry. I'm just not going to go. I'm not going there with that. And you do. That might last for a little bit, but it seeps back in. Do you learn? And I wouldn't wish on anybody, going through that, even, like myself a couple of times. But am I grateful for it? Yes. Why? Why would you be grateful to somebody? Because it showed me a lot of things. People who are egotistical, self-centered, suffer a lot. Now, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that on the surface. But they do. Because they're mastered by the ego mind. And that's the practice that we do, the repetitiveness, is to program ourselves not to be in the ego mind. Not to be in that. Gets us in trouble. Causes us to focus on negativity and pull negativity in. Worry, stress, and fear. Stress is the number one destroyer of these bodies on the planet by far. It is the primer with all the other crap that happens with the body. Stress. And most of us don't even know that we have stress because we're so used to having stress. Isn't that right? So someone says, you mean to tell me that we all experience forms of stress? Yes. And we don't know it. Yep. Why? Because we're so distracted. Distraction is one of our biggest challenges. And what do you mean by that? Well, when you're pulled by the material physical world like so many of us are, you're distracted because there's so much stuff going on. There always is. And when we've got a lot of Americans right now in this very moment worry, stressing, fearing. Does that affect us? Does that affect any of us who don't, for the most part, worry, stress, and fear? Does it affect us? Yeah, it does. Because those are all energetic frequencies that people are putting out. Okay? Have you been around a group of people lately where, now does it mean they're not, down and out, crying in their beer type thing. But can you feel it? Can you feel the frequencies? Tightness, uneasiness, maybe some fear thrown in, worry, stress, obviously. You ever been around a really stressful person? There's no way that any of us are not going to be affected by a really stressful person, someone who's really stressed out. So that's why we're all connected, and we're all affected. So you can see how imperative it is that we focus on what? Our heart mind. How to master the ego mind. How to leave the mind alone. One would say, well, that's interesting. What do you mean, leave the mind alone? You don't engage it. You stay in the now. If you don't engage the mind, you're not going to be in the mind. It won't have its grip on you. You're not running from it. You're not ignoring it. You know that, see? So your response is that I want to master the ego mind. So I'm no longer a slave of the ego mind. So I'm motivated to master it. And the only way I can do that is to leave it alone and focus on being in the now. And being in deep gratitude all the time because of the fact that you're realizing that, wait a minute, the noise is not there, the worry, stress, fear is not there. When you focus on the now, none of that stuff's there, ever. The only thing that you have pulling at you is the ego mind. It's the only thing that will pull you away and have you wander off, and half the time you don't know what the heck am I wandering off? And then you just go back and start over. If you have to do it 100 times, you do it. You choose to do it. You don't have to do it, but you choose to do it. And that totally changes everything. And then you get into the habit of the repetitiveness. You start to realize and say, hey, wait a minute. The ego mind isn't there much anymore. Normally in this situation with these people, I would be like this, and this. But I'm not. That's great. Someone over here bragging about this and that, about themselves and stuff, and then a lot of people, because their ego minds come in, they say, I wish that person would shut up and quit bragging about themselves. But when you're not in the ego mind, you just kind of sit back and smile. And all of us, in this very now moment, doesn't matter where you're at in life, doesn't matter what's going on, here in the physical world or within, there's that one constant. All of that is temporary. All of it. Now, superficially, people go, yeah, I know about that. I know it's temporary. No big deal. Well, good. I'm glad that you've discovered that. Does that bother you? No. I made peace with it. I know that everything is temporary. I know that tomorrow I could be gone and all this could be gone. Well, it would be gone if you're gone. So that's why it's so important that we practice not being attached. And that doesn't mean that we aren't loving, caring, tender, and kind. It just means that when whatever it is taken away. And when I mean by taken away, I mean by events or whatever situations. You're not destroyed. It's okay. Not a biggie. It's like you say to yourself, I really want this, and I get it, it'll be great. If I don't, it'll be okay too. See, that way you're not attached. You're not attached and you don't build up expectations. Sure, we have, there's some things, it's a fine line, but there's some things that we have expectations on, certain things, but not heavy duty. Attachments are a whole different ballgame. Because when you attach yourself to something, what do you experience? Well, if you attach yourself to something, could be another being, okay, a relationship, could be a material object, could be a lot of things. But what comes into that picture? What do you do? If you're really attached to something, you worry about it, don't you? Doesn't have to be huge, but you worry about it. And not all the time, but you do worry. Comes in, worry. I wonder, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have that. That's a real true attachment. And here's where the confidence, faith, and trust comes in. Many of us don't have it. It's how we view ourselves. It's how we judge ourselves, say. And it is the society that also dictates to us. And there's many people whose self-esteem is not good. It's in the toilet. Where did that come from? Well, it's interesting because how powerful we are. If we start believing that we aren't anything, that we're useless and powerless, and all that goop, we're going to create it for ourselves. How many people you come across where you go, wow, why would they feel that way about themselves? Because they have so many natural qualities and things here, and here. It's like, have you ever been around somebody that you cared about and you felt compelled to constantly pick them up, constantly give them what? Adoration or compliments, and they would keep saying, you really sure about that? Yeah, you're great. Go for it. Oh, I don't know. And then you start going, well, I'm doing everything I can to get them going, but they have to want to get going. It's like, you're helping somebody, right? And it you kind of feel drained after a while because they won't help themselves. You ever been in that situation? They just won't help themselves. So you end up beating yourself up, helping them because you want to, not because you expect anything. And then you finally come full conclusion and say, I can't help them because they don't want to be helped. You don't walk away because they're not doing anything for themselves. So they just keep relying on you. And so you help them. And you go, man, I can't keep doing this. So it's our attitudes about ourselves from early age on that kind of dictates how our lives are going to come into being, what direction, what it holds, because we create it. And based upon what we believe about ourselves is how that's the life that we are going to live. If you doubt yourself, you're going to doubt everything else. There's always going to come in there, right? If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to believe in anything else. And the confidence, trust, and faith through the heart-mind is absolutely imperative that we develop that for ourselves, with ourselves. Because you have that in the universe, and then you know that things are going to come into fruition. You're not concerned when, how, where. You just know it. That's it. It's bottom line. I just know it. Well, aren't you being overconfident? No, not at all. I'm very confident with myself. I have 100% trust and faith in myself. And so, therefore, that's how I connect with the universe, and the universe, same with me, vice versa. So I manifest things, and they come into being. Very simple. It's not arrogance. It's heart-mindedness. I'm not bragging. Oh, look what I can do. You can't do it. None of that. And that's when you float. You don't swim. You just float. Would you rather, and as an analogy, would you rather get in that raft, okay, you come to the river and it's, and you get in that raft and you're going to go upstream. You're going to fight against the current, period. Now, you're not sure where you're going, but you just know that you're going to fight against that current. Eventually, you're going to get somewhere. All right? That's what most of us choose through programming that we get when we're young, and then we grow, these bodies grow, and we're programmed. Most of us will fight those rapids in this life. Some of us will say, you know what? I'm going to get in that canoe, boat, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to lean back, and I'm just going to let the current take me. I have total trust, faith, and confidence in the universe and myself, and that's it. Now, how many of us will do that? How many? Don't know, do you? What's your choice? It's your decision. No one's going to make you. Are you in a hurry? Heck no. You got to try it sometimes. Maybe you've already done it. Go somewhere. You know, we have these little parks in our country, someplace. Every place has some place. If you have to drive half an hour, you go somewhere and you just kind of sit and do nothing and just watch. In nature, I'm talking about. You look at the leaves fluttering. You see maybe the sunlight, maybe it's cloudy. You know, we have a great variety on this planet, and you're taking in your surroundings. You're not in a hurry. You don't have an agenda. You're not on a schedule, and you're just letting go. You're floating. That's it. Well, you know, floating through life, that sounds like somebody who's lazy. No, not at all. You're floating through life through the heart-mind, and you're not in a hurry about anything. You know why so many people are in a hurry? Because they're too caught up in the material physical world. And they've totally dropped out of their spiritual. They're so disconnected with their spiritual selves, who they really are, the gods that they are, the pure consciousness. This is why we spend thousands of lifetimes, but we keep doing it over and over again. And we keep discovering. So it's like you look at something, right? You can always tell when someone's attached to something. It's like, have you ever been, most of us have been to garage sales, right? And usually got someone in the garage or out in the front, and they're got all this stuff. And, you know, some people make a living with that. They go buy stuff, pennies on the dollar, and they collect it, and then they turn around and then they sell it for more to make money. And so you're walking around and you're seeing stuff, and you can feel the energy. We all have that ability. It's just a lot of us don't know it. You feel the energy from other people using it and touching it and, conversations around it. I mean, it's so phenomenal when you understand that there's a whole life story to everything. And so you pick up a piece of glassware or something, and there's no price on it. You go, how much is this? And the people act pretty much indifferent. They're not, oh, gosh, I remember when Grandma Johnson, used to serve her famous Jell-O dessert and that. And everything. No, it says, oh, it's $1.50. Okay. They're not attached. Would they sell stuff that they're attached to? Most likely not. They're just selling stuff they don't want anymore because they don't use it. And the funny thing is that through attachment, this is how we collect things, right? So you collect things, but you collect them and you don't use them. And you forget about that you got them. And they're somewhere. And so when you, say you move or you're doing some deep cleaning, and you go, and is this a brand new box, never been opened, you go, I remember when I got this, I never used it. Stuff like that. I learned a long time ago that when you get something that's really good, that you really get a lot of use out of, you make sure you get 2. Because 9 times out of 10, when you go back to replace it, it's gone. They don't make it anymore. And always have a plan B at least. Always have a secondary plan. Doesn't have to be intricate. In other words, if something goes awry here, you can go fall onto this over here. But don't ever not have backups. You always want to have backups. Some, they're not huge, but certain areas you go, I got to have a backup for that. So the attachment that we all experience throughout this life and many others is due to the ego mind. This discovery of these things are wonderful because then it gives us the opportunity to say, okay, I'm focused on the now. When you're focused on the now, you're not attached to anything. Really, nothing. Zero. But you have fun and you enjoy it. Well, imagine what would happen in a relationship, okay? Neither of you are attached to each other, but you have a great time. Right? You got great sex, great interaction, everything. But you're not attached to each other. You might even get married. And you're not attached to each other. But you enjoy each other as in the moment. Right? Now, something were to occur where you're no longer together, you're not devastated. You're not suffering either. It's a huge difference. Huge. Because we become dependent when we become attached. When we're attached, we're dependent. When we're not attached, we're not dependent. It's a big difference. So in the quiet time of this meditation, leave the ego mind alone. Focus on the now. Relax as much as you can into the body. You just kind of let go. Your shoulders drop down. You lean into your own body. And you watch what happens. You're going to relax more than you can imagine. And I know a lot of you do. And you're still as a statue. You're not moving. And you're just focused on the breath, rising and falling. And that brings you into the now, and you leave the mind and ego alone. And that's the difference between being attached in the ego mind and not attached in the heart mind. I'll join you in a meditation. I'll return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose. And an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. Focus on the breath rising and falling. Fall into silence. Can you hear the silence that's between your thoughts? Or have you felt a moment of stillness that feels like a pause between your heartbeats? Can you sense more awareness while waiting for your next in-breath? These sacred silences are the golden keys to your freedom. The more silence you can find, the easier it becomes to live in pure appreciation for this life. When the heart, breath, and mind synchronize, their silences together. This is the deepest connecting silence. It feels like you landed in heaven. In the meantime, let's have some lunch. See how much while you let your ego go. Take this with you for the rest of the day into the evening and night and the following morning. We'll return here Tuesday, July 2, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, purest of the purest purest, eternal gratitude at all times. No matter what's happening within you or outside of you. Open your heart and let the magic flow in.